If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Taves. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. Boy, that half hour went really fast. I like talking about diamonds and change and dimensions. And it's, you know what, isn't it absolutely so sweet how things have changed, like our conversation, our words, our expectations, just so much. And I don't know about you, but I've been having conversations lately with people that are saying, I don't have words for some of the things that I really want to have words for, but what I have is peace. And I think, wow, if we have the peace, right? That beats everything. That trumps absolutely everything. So welcome tonight, and we'll be back in the Hollywood squares in just a little while. But tonight, I really wanted to take a few minutes, might be a few more than a few minutes, because there's a lot of prophetic words that are being spoken right now, aren't there? About the war is number one that we get a lot, because they're also a lot of the prophets are going into end times and rapture and this and that, and this is a sign that Jesus is coming back. And so it's, the various and sundry. I'm not putting it down, by the way. I'm just saying that there is a lot, and I want to sort of put a little bit of a foundation around some of the things. The other one is the eclipse. We're on the 3rd today, so 5 days from now. Some of you are going to be smack dab, and I think the planks for sure. I don't know how many of you are going to be in the middle of it. It's an exceptional experience. I remember when it was in Winnipeg, our children were really small, but and so two of them were old enough to be able to be outside and watch it with the glasses on, but two, we set up it's called something or other box, where you can see the effect of the um, the eclipse that way. Anyway, it is absolutely a magic moment, because all of creation literally stands still. It goes dark, and it's a little eerie in a way, because there's no birds singing, there's no dogs barking. It's just like all the creatures just know it's like it's a sacred holy moment that something is happening. So it's definitely worth experiencing. What I'm finding, the problem with it right now for me, is all the prophetic words that are going around it. Most of them are bringing confusion and fear. And so right now, I'm not speaking to it at all, other than saying it's a beautiful experience, and it is a full solar eclipse, and that's all I know. But there really is so much going on in the world. I actually found out there was I think it was Greg Braden that said, he said, do you know that there's actually 40 wars going on at the earth this time? And so I I wouldn't even know where to put them on the map. But with there's so much more with countries and political challenges, breakdown family, gender bias, elections. But I just sort of wanted to address these two. And many of the prophecies right now are centered around Psalm 83. So I don't know if you listen to some of the same things I have heard. I've actually turned them off, or not read them, because there's been so much coming across my screen. But it's particularly interesting because it was written thousands of years ago, of course, and it appears to talk about the very time that we are living. The prophetic community has lots to say. So I'm going to read it, Psalm 83, 1-8. It says, "O God, do not keep silent. Do not hold your peace or be still, O God, for behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. They lay crafty plans against your people. They consult together against your treasured ones, and they say, 'Come, let us wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they conspire with one accord. Against you they make a covenant. The tents of Edom, the Ishmaelites, the Moabs, the Hagrites, the Gebal, the Ammon, the Amalek, the Philistia, the inhabitants of Tyre, Asher also has joined them. They are the strong arm of the children of Lot." And then it says Selah, which we know is like rest. Think about that. So it seems like there's an illustration here that there's a future 10-member alliance comprised of the Arab territories that mostly share common borders with Israel. And the psalmist says they'll form an alliance and seek to wipe Israel off the map. So when you look at that, and if you look at that in a prophetic way, then it's not happy news here. And also, just to emphasize, it says in the psalm, "Come, let us destroy them as a nation," right? So that Israel's name is remembered no more. Now, all of these areas in this psalm actually correspond to nations that are in the Middle East right now, and the ones that are in the news, and it's the ones that are surrounding Israel. The tents of Edom are the Palestinian refugees, southern Jordanians, Ishmaelites, Saudi Arabia, Moabs, Palestinian refugees again, and central Jordanians, Hagarites, Egyptians, and Syria. Gebal is northern Lebanese, Ammon, the Palestinian refugees, and the northern Jordanians. That's a wider area. And the Amalek, Arabs south of Israel, Philistia, the Palestinian refugees, Hamas of the Gaza Strip, Tyre, Hezbollah, southern Lebanese, and Assyria, the Syrians, and perhaps the northern Iraqs. And I took that from two sources. One is a teaching by oh my golly, Chuck Missler, Koinonia House, if you want to look it up, and one Greg Braden was talking about too. So those are my sources. Amazingly, all the nationalities listed above in Psalm 83 in the alliance are the exact neighboring enemies to Israel who are at present warning Israel of their intentions to destroy her, and they're dominating the headlines. So a 3,000-year-old prophecy written in the book of Psalms seems to be alarmingly close to finding its fulfillment. It seems of great relevance, and of course, the end time scenarios are attached, right? However, the exact timing of a war is not given, and some people actually believe that this was completely fulfilled in 1967 with the Six-Day War. I'll leave that for you. Some feel that the prophetic hourglass, as it were, was turned when Israel became a nation on May 14th, 48, but it seems to be running out of top sand as it's going down. We're looking at this tonight because I think it's worth taking another perspective on it. And also, we don't lack for prophetic words lately surrounding these things. But and especially, I'm mentioning the two, the eclipse, I'm not going to say anything more about, except that people should know that there is a solar eclipse on this earth once every 18 months. And yes, it's unusual for us. Yes, it's North America. It's getting a lot of press, but there's between 2 and 5 solar eclipses visible every year. Not all of them are total, but there's generally one around every 18 months. So, and along with that right now are the prophecies that, they're aligned. There's certain cities that are mentioned. and some saying it's ushering in the Armageddon, the rapture, etc. What I really want to hit is how we handle prophetic words. And I am not anti-prophetic words, because that's definitely a way that God speaks to his people, speaks through people to people. And lots of times the prophet is used for edification, exhortation, and comfort, as well as specific things that we're called to. But we're all called really to know God, right? We all hear his voice. And sometimes if we go after certain follow after certain voices or certain people, then sometimes we just park the voice of God and don't ask the questions, because we think, oh, well, this person knows. And what I want to do is say, look, let's encourage each other in him to hear his voice, because biblical prophecies or any prophecies are not etched in stone. We are told, if it were, we would be totally predestined to points of view, and then we would just be following this like little puppets. I would actually like to have a conversation with Asaph, who wrote this poem. If he was here today, especially at the beginning of the psalm, where he says, "Oh God, do not keep silent, do not hold your peace. Your enemies are making uproar, and they hate you, and they raise their hands." Like God wouldn't know. He's got to tell God. And they lay crafty plans, like God wouldn't know. And they consult together, and because he's wanting war, he's wanting God to raise up. And think about it. Who are God's enemies? It's important to note, really, that the Bible speaks of enemies of God, but it also emphasizes God's desire for reconciliation and redemption, for forgiveness and reconciliation. And in the light of the past weeks here on the river, where we've talked about God's unconditional love, God's desire for us to be as he is on this earth, we're also learning to walk in the power of our resurrection realities. That's a term that we're expanding in our understanding. We're continually looking through the lens of our position in Christ, being one with God, knowing our authority, and understanding that we do not have an enemy that has any rule or authority in our life. Is there an enemy? Sure, there is. We're just not paying attention to it because we're too busy walking in Christ. Last week, we looked at the journey of Christ from the cross to the throne, what Christ's death and resurrection accomplished, and that the resurrection reality is he defeated all powers and principalities. And we saw that we can walk in the resurrection realities of that truth. Does God have enemies? Sure, he does. Just as you and I have enemies who don't like us, they're enemies like the kind that are they're the kind that want to harm us. Maybe. Do you think God is one bit concerned about having enemies? Because I'm not even sure it's possible for him to be worried about anything. Because here in Philippians, I'm reading 4, 6, and 7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That's one of the other things that I would say to Asaph, his name is. If he was here in the room, I'd thank him for his poems, because he was actually appointed by King David to lead worship in the tabernacle, including Psalms, I think, 50 and 73 to 83. He was a beautiful writer. But I would ask him if he'd be open for discussion. Somehow I want to introduce him to the future, to a journey into the new covenant. Then I'd share our co-inclusion with Christ. Because what we know today we do not actually have to accept any of the enemy's wiles or strategies as the final story. And I want to say tonight, I don't believe we have to, because wars and rumors of wars are happening, because people are saying a certain thing is going to happen. I don't think that we have to take these things as our final story, and to keep seeking God for yourself for answers, for where the peace lies. And we know, not we don't just have his word, we have the still small voice, and we know his character. And those are plumb lines that have to come when we hear of other things. Does it fit the character of God? I would encourage Asaph to an intimate relationship with God, and that he might know him as good and faithful, and that he would know unconditional love. And I'd introduce him to revelation realities, because Asaph has no concept of sonship, of knowing God intimately, only knowing about God through traditions, through customs and hearsay, and he believes God to be a warrior. So if he understood the power and authority of sons of God positioned in I am, the 83rd Psalm might read very differently. He may still record what was going on in history, but he would also understand it's not God's job to kill and destroy anyone, but for the sons, that's us, to rise up in our authority and actually enforce resurrection realities. Because right now, everybody's mad at everyone else, and some are even mad at God. Years ago, Ed and I had this amazing Irishman. He was a genius at masonry, and we hired him to create a fireplace at the cottage. And it took him days to do, and he stayed with us. And we had a great visit in between all the masonry stuff. And we didn't know much about Irish history and customs, but it was an absolute delight to listen to his stories, everything from leprechauns to religion. And one of his statements I'll never forget, he said, and I was going to try an Irish accent, but he says, Ireland has too many Protestants, and Ireland has too many Catholics. And the problem is there's not enough Christians. And I love the heart behind that, right? There's not enough people who live through Christ consciousness. And maybe the same could be said right now about the Middle East. Too many angry people, too many ideas, too many people having to be right and justifying their stand, all in the name of God, by the way, where God is still and taken out of the equation, and then men's egos will rise up and take over. And there doesn't seem to be a hesitation in what we read in the news to kill, steal, destroy. Doesn't matter who you are or what your war is about. To take another life, to cause pain and damage, does not represent God in any other way. Unless you know him differently, I see his character as the person who loves unconditionally. Because everything else causes separation. And in God, we are one. And that's where we're going. Right now, many are feeling powerless, and many are feeling in fear. And if we are listening to some of the things or watching news, there's a lot of that around. But I really tonight want to encourage us. And I want to say, what if God showed up in times of conflict? And you know what? He can. But he's waiting on us. He says, all creation is groaning, waiting for the revealing of sons. We can learn about resurrection realities, or we can take action. Living from resurrection realities is living from Christ consciousness. It feels very helpless when things around us are in chaos and pictures and sounds of war come into our house or over the internet. The internet is fabulous, but sometimes there's just a barrage of things people feel that they need you to give attention to. And we can watch in real time the pain and suffering and the children's cries. And I don't know about you, but it breaks my heart. When the prophets bring words and bring fear of possible danger, etc., this too is another level of chaos rather than peace. So tonight, I would like to remind us of what we know, that we are not victims in this. And I'm using wars right now as an illustration. But if you've been concerned about this solar eclipse and about the prophets of doom and destruction bringing fear, it's a very important understanding that just because something is written or spoken does not predetermine the outcome. And what I'm proposing is that just because the proposed details of a psalm says that we are heading for destruction, and the message is that God seems to want to destroy people, that it's a predestined event. Some will argue that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. I won't argue that, except to suggest that we can also consider that Jesus is the Word. It was God, and the Word was God Himself, who took upon Himself flesh, who is the Word. For me, that's a Selah. So let's shift here. In a former lesson, I don't even know how, if it's years ago now, but in one of them, we learned about what's called the super radiance effect. We learned that the kingdom of heaven, the field around us, is actually divine consciousness. I'm just putting it in totally simple terms. And that it has a measurable effect, and it's released through us. Science is saying the super radiance effect is the extraordinary positive effect radiated to the rest of society when a group of people will meditate and release love, will release peace. Incredibly, by the power of our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions, we are the power to change everything. And again, in light of resurrection realities, all power, all authority has been given us to do as Jesus models. And you can look up and study more. There's a world peace group, and it's called Peace Through Meditation, and you can just Google that if you want to know more or be more involved in it. But we don't have to be part of groups. You know what? We are the group. We are people that I know we're in different continents and miles from each other, but in our hearts, we're the group. And when we set our hearts to one thing, we make a difference. Scientific research shows beyond shadow of a doubt that we can radiate an influence of peace and tranquility to targeted populations. And they've also done measurable, like where they hook up people and to frequency machines. I don't know what they are, but it's measurable, and they actually can verify the fact that our energy, our frequency of thought positions ourselves, how we think and how we pray affects the world around us. They've seen that when this happens, warfare and fighting actually stops, crime trends decline, domestic and international harmony improves. And you know, our God Squad, when we were first studying the power of intention, one of our gals is she calls her, I don't know if she calls herself that sounds like I'm putting her down. Not at all. She's an urban missionary. She gives her whole life, all her time, to in the city of Winnipeg, to the urban area. She's in the prison. She's ministering on the streets to the immigrants, like, she is absolutely amazing. And one time we were talking about, you know, what we want to put out a measurable intention. And even though we know that we are unlimited and there isn't anything that we can't believe for and God will do, especially for his people. But I said, let's put it measurable, because in our papers we were seeing that headlines that said, Winnipeg, murder capital of Canada, and they would you know how extreme things go. And so we decided we were going to do something measurable in our intention, and together we were going to believe for a 25% decrease in the statistics, in the numbers. And we all agreed on that, and we sat with our intention, and we released that to the city. Do you know it wasn't 3 days later where the headlines actually read homicide rate down 50%? It had exceeded what we were believing. But I think it was God's kiss to us that says, pay attention. You make a difference, even from your prayer chair, from gathering in your living room, wherever you are, and one can make a difference. That influence is just a small group. But do you know what? I want to remind us, I know you probably know these statistics, but that influence is created by a fraction of the number of the rest of the population. That it says that the square root of 1% of the population can have a measurable effect on thousands of people. In a city of 1 million, you need 100 people, 0.1%. In a first day with the new teeth. In a world of 6 billion, we need 8,000 people. This just step into my world for a bit here. For the last number of months, seriously, I've been cutting away. I'm only, how you're just following what Father said. I've been cutting away these bags that, it's had onions or potatoes. I have yellow, I have green, I have black, I have white, and I keep them in a glass. And Kim was here, and I said, "Isn't that cute? Like my lovely little flower of nets." And I said, "I know that Father's going to start talking to me about these nets, and he's got lots to say." Well, this morning, I was spending time in meditation, and he said, "Go get a net. I want to talk to you." So I'm just sharing now with you guys. So he said, "Go get the net," and he said, "Put it over something round." Well, I got a wine glass this morning, but I tried but now it's too reflective. So now I've got this black net. I've taken 2 bowls. I've actually duct taped them together, so because I need a globe. Okay. I couldn't find a bowl. So anyway, here we are. He says, "I want you to put that over," as I'm meditating. And he started talking to me about, now remember, I'm the one that wants to have something as simple that I can explain it to a 5-year-old, because I need it that way. But for me, this morning was sort of impacting. Now you know how deep a prayer person I am. So I'm sitting here with this net over the glass. And he said, "Let me show you what you were meditating on," because I had gone into a place. Next week, I'm going to talk about some of the effects of the meditations, and that we're going to just unpack a bunch of stuff with that. But I was doing that this morning, and he said, "As you were sitting there," because what I'm sharing with you now is coming out of what I've been doing, and releasing this piece. And he said, when you well, I want you to know, when you're doing this net, and isn't it interesting that what do we call the when the computers came out? The wide world net, right? This net. So this net, he said, is actually a real thing. This is your reality. The net is outside of our 3 dimension, but he said, I want you to see that every place in this net, that you're all, every piece of this net is connected to every piece of the net. And he said to me, because this is another thing I've been studying, he said, I want you to see that as time. This net is time, because time is not how you know it. It's we think of time, behind, past, present, future. And he said, time, that is not time. There's no such thing as time. The way he said, time is a construct. Time is an event. And if you would look at the net that it connects us, see, there's a divine intelligence behind all this. I might not be sounding exactly divine intelligent right now, but this is what he was showing. We're all connected, and he said time is the same. This is time. It's outside of our 3D, and he said that time of that you're looking at now is now. That time all over the world. So let's say this is where we're here. Oh, but wait a minute, we've got Australia. So some people are down here, but we're praying for people over here. But do you see, doesn't matter where you are, there's a connectiveness, and it is not in a straight line. It is just there. And then he said to me, now realize that that's how time works. Time is a net, or that, and actually has substance to it. But the time that you're dealing with in this net is now. So it doesn't matter where you are, it's now. So here's some factors at work. We are all one. We are all connected. And we're all connected at the same time, wherever you are on this world. And, the scripture came to me this morning. I thought, well, that's why the centurion came to Jesus and when he asked him to heal a servant, Jesus, the report was at the same time that Jesus spoke, he was healed. There was no distance in the spirit. It was not, time had nothing to do with it. So I'm saying this to say this. When we look at the net, when we set our intention for something, and right now I was talking about the war and what's happening in the Middle East. So we may be anywhere here, and let's say the Middle East is right here. If we set our intention to something here and say love and peace, it's connected wherever we are on the globe, and it's now, and it's for them. So this is our little lesson in quantum life. But what I'm understanding from that little net thing, because that's how my mind was working this morning, and it just seemed to settle. And I went, wow, that's so good. And realizing that wherever we are, as we position ourselves, remember, we are the most powerful thing that he's created on this earth. Every single one of us we are the workers of the miracles. We are who change things. We are co-creating with him. Every single human that in particular sons like us who understand more have a responsibility to operate in the power to create, to heal, and to heal ourselves, to love, to bring peace. And when we do that, when we produce that feeling that agrees with the mind of God, and this is how the mind of God works. He's saying, you're all connected. He's saying, time is now. And there's no time lags. it's not like we have to wait for the letter to come back or for the telegram guy to send it. When we send it, it happens. The thing that we like to do is like the author of the psalm, so we like to tell God how to do it. We know we know what we want, and you know what we have. There's a lot of times where we're really, really wanting to tell him how to do it because we want justice, we want revenge, we want this and we want that, and they're right and they're wrong. And he's saying, if you would just come into where I am in peace, if you would just come into that and release that, that's why you're here. So that this can be done to represent him and do it so that when we do it, he actually knows how to put it all together. And what a gift. We don't have to tell him how to do it. We don't have to explain to him that he has enemies and these enemies are doing. We don't have to tell him to watch the news at 11 so that he knows how to figure this out. But we have a part in that. And nobody's going to be surprised that I'm bringing up heart-brain coherence and the fact that when we actually put ourselves into that place and the optimum measuring of our frequency is the 0.1 hertz. Well, you know why? Because 0.1 is the Earth's magnetic field line and the primary resonance frequency. And that's the place where healing begins. So now we've got our earth, we're all connected on it. Time is now, and we're the people to do it. And we know how to connect to the very thing that is already there. So when this is the place that healing begins. This is the place where change begins. This is the place where we don't have to figure out what all the voices are saying or the manuscripts are written about. We are people that know our God. We know that he loves the people that we're hurting with. We know that for that hurting to stop, there has to be peace and love. And we know how to connect with that. And we know how to release it. And we can trust for God to do his part. So tonight, in a time where people want revenge and they're releasing hatred and eye for an eye, and our job is to remember perfect love casts out fear, because it's really easy to say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to stop them, start them. We have all sorts of crazy things. What if we spent time in the net tonight, releasing an intention for peace, for love, for freedom? No details on how God is supposed to do it. Would you guys be willing to just take that time? I don't know if it'll show up in the news. All I know is I have this daily. I start my day in meditation, and I'm drawn to releasing love, releasing that peace, releasing freedom. If you don't feel that your heart is for the Middle East or for the war, if you have any kind of fear or need in your own family to release peace, love, freedom, if that's all we're doing, and then we're trusting God. But we're going to position ourselves first the way we know how to do that. And what I would like to do, I'm going to come back to the view, the gallery view, is just as is to first of all get our agreement that we'll that we're going to position ourselves in that 0-1 for love, peace, for freedom, and release it into the places where there is war, unrest, conflict, disease. You know what it is, but our job is not to figure it out, but position ourselves and then just release. Now, we won't do it we'll do it in the style of an intention. So we'll just release that intention to the Lord, and then we're going to rest in it.